All right. How's everybody doing out there today? This is Gold Pilled here with the Gold Pilled stream. And it's been a few days here since my last video. I'm kind of been busy with stuff and haven't had much time to come up with some content here, but I was listening to a Brendan O'Connell video the other day, and he went on about a 3-minute rant, and it kind of hit home for me, with kind of important information about the state of the truth community and the IIA operations that are being run in it. And it kind of spurred me to do a little more of a deep dive into IIA, which, if most of you, aren't familiar with IIA, it's Interactive Internet Activities. It's a Department of Defense / Department of State operations that they conduct to pretty much carry out propaganda. And it's very much real, and it's very much in play, especially in our current time here. And it's been in place for quite a while now. So we're going to learn a lot more in depth about the IIA. And it actually goes by other names now. I believe one is Online Strategic Communication and Information Operations, Influence Operations. There's many different names, and the details of it, they've been changing the terminology too because of the negative connotations of some of those terms, like psychological operations and other negative terms. They've been changing them to make them kind of more disguised and not make people think, that they're bad when they actually are. But, well, you should know how the government likes to change definitions of things to suit their matrix narratives. So let's move right along here and get started. This actually might be a 2-part video. I don't know if I'm gonna have enough time to cover everything here today, so it'll probably be 2 parts. I don't know if I'll release the first part as a separate video or if I'll just wait and combine the 2 into 1. I'll see about that later, but it should be interesting here. And for people on YouTube, who maybe aren't quite as involved in the truth community, this should be a good learning experience. And even ones who are involved in the truth community, you can never have too much good information. So let's go watch this little rant of Brendan O'Connell, and then we'll move into the details of IIA. So screen share, mute.
She is Diane, the cat diva from Tennessee. Tennessee. All right, I'm going to re-edit that one, and I'm going to put it back up because that's on another channel. How China Steals US Technology. Brendan and the Cat Diva. There I am in my windowless, oh no, that's got a window, in my fave place, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and Diane lays it out. It's the sort of stuff you're going to hear from Cindy Niles and Julianne Romanella. Real detailed stuff on the actual technology, the names, the dates, the faces, and the welding. You've heard it before. Even good old Whitney Webb got on with Rick Wiles and talked about the welding. They just took our stuff that I was putting in videos, happily took it, wouldn't mention my name despite the fact I was talking with Matt Scouse from there before he was fired. Telling you now, Rick Wiles is going to turn out to be a huge rat. He is an absolute rat, and I'll explain another time why. He's just another demographic because, look, Alex Jones was losing so many people, the more sophisticated and intelligence. He was just being left with the morons. And there was this massive pool of you and I who'd grown up with the Bill Coopers and the Alex Jones early on. Always took him with a grain of salt, but thought, well, best he's there. But as he just became too ridiculous and over the top, he was losing massively. Until COVID came along, COVID saved his ass. He was losing money. He was starting to go down. All right. And the demographic, they were losing the quality demographic. Well, who picked that up? Rick Wiles. He then managed to get himself thrown off YouTube by going, it's a Jew coup. And he just started ragging on Jews like something out of a Dr. David G. Oh, look, he said, I've been banned. Now come to my little obscure site over here. That's how the game.
Now, him going on about Alex Jones and Rick Wiles, as I said in previous videos, I used to be a fan of True News, and I thought they were putting out some really good information and not really holding back with, self-censorship and stuff. And then I couldn't do with all the Catholic Christian grifting that Rick was doing, and kind of moved on from them. But one of the big things that helped me move on from them was True News getting banned from YouTube. And I remember that, specifically right before they got banned, Rick did come out with one of his videos saying, oh, it's a Jew coup they're doing against Donald Trump. It's a Jew coup. And he was kind of, ragging on Jews and stuff like that. And yep, it got him banned. And so after that, you had to go to truenews.com for the videos, and that was just a hassle. And I really wasn't learning anything. I couldn't get anywhere else from them. So I kind of moved on from True News. But here recently, with info from Brendan, it looks like they got rid of the Ed Saul and I forget who the other guy, Matt Scowls. They got rid of him. So it sounds like Rick probably is a rat and probably is controlled there, getting rid of a couple decent people we had around them and whatnot. And with the Alex Jones there being left with all the idiots, that's probably very true too, because at this point in the game, if you still like Alex Jones and still go to him for information, then you probably are on the lower IQ scale there, because it is so easy to see Alex Jones and InfoWars for what they are, and if you can't see that, then you're obviously not intelligent enough, and I want to say I apologize for that, but I really don't, because when Brendan gets to near the end of his rant here, we are at war. We are the Americans, USA. We are at war with, I guess, our government. The peasant people population is at war with the government and the controllers. And we need to wake up. And we need to wake up fast, because where things are headed is not good for us. So, terribly sorry to hurt your feelings if I'm calling you dumb or low IQ, but you need to wake up and you need to start doing some studying and learning and boost that IQ up, because we need everybody we can get, and we can't afford to have large chunks being retards still listening to Alex Jones like he's credible. It's ridiculous. So, pull it together, people, and get over the Alex Jones. Realize what these IIA operations are, and rise above it, because the whole online community is terribly controlled right now. So, let's continue here with Brendan's rant. My little rant there is done.
game is played. Bring my obscure demographic, I sit them on their ass and I just tell them what they want to hear and say, isn't it terrible? I never organise, and then I beg for $250,000 to expand my studio so I can be another highly organised, controlled release, Alex Jones, and make sure everyone sits on their ass and never organises politically. We're going to embarrass every one of those people. We are going to get people down on Rick Wiles' ass at his church and at his studio. We're going to start hammering him, not physically threaten him, obviously. We're going to start embarrassing these people. Just you wait, Henry Higgins. All of you rats, enough of this. There must be a counterintelligence operation. These people are stealing energy. We have to be able to take them over and embarrass them and put them under so much pressure. They have no choice. They either quit or they start telling the truth and they start organising politically. And if they don't, you will know you have an enemy of the state. You have a treasonous rat. Put them on a list, and I'm not joking. In future dates and future times, there will be trials. This is not a fantasy. This is not some crazy idea. You are infected with treason, and treason can only prosper because none dare call it treason. Rick Wiles is a treasonous rat. Alex Jones is a treasonous rat. Whitney Webb, all those people that gave you 1/3 of the story and stopped, or gave you 2/3 and then said, by the way, just send us money and we'll just keep you seated and tell you how horrible it is, because psychological warfare involves blowing off steam. It involves giving you someone to sit and project onto and go, something is happening. Something is happening. I don't need to worry. It is a way of placating the herd before you cull them straight into the abattoir and cut their throats. That is the method in the operation that is operating. I'm not making...
Now, he goes off there and says, how True News, they got banned, and then it's all come to my site and kind of, keep his loyal supporters in an echo chamber. And I believe that's what a lot of the YouTube censorship in 2017, 2018-ish was intended for. They started cracking down on the monetization, which got their supporters to donate more money to them, get an influx of cash coming into all these truth channels. And then after the demonetization, they started doing the actual, censorship, the strikes, banning them, and then banning them for good. And then all the alternative platforms started popping up, and all the, alternative media started, going to the alternative platforms because they were banned on YouTube. And they took their main subscriber base with them there. And they were spread out, over all these, different alternative platforms now. And they just created all echo chambers for their base subscribers. And it's, keeping people, kind of segregated on different platforms, keeping them in echo chambers. It boosted their income so that they can, expand, their operations and do more content to keep people in echo chambers. And it's still playing out, just like that to this day with all these alternative platforms. And there's so many more now than what there was in 2018, 2019. They probably doubled, tripled, quadrupled in the amount of alternative platforms now. And it's just all echo chambers. And like Brendan said, a big part of the IIA psychological operations is pressure release, blowing off steam. People, they learn there's some truth, they get upset about it. Well, then they find these echo chambers online and complaining and interacting, with these echo chambers and the other people in the echo chambers. It allows them to blow off steam. It allows them to release pressure, get their anger out there, with somebody else, who agrees with them. And then they see other people agree with them. And it just relieves the pressure from them and, makes them fall back into complacency. It's actually brilliant. It's a brilliant strategy. It's highly effective. The internet allows them to do this. And with the, continued dumbing down of, American society and the dropping IQ rates, the majority of people are none the wiser to this. They just take it. They're completely unaware. They fall right into the trap. And they're just all huddled in, to the echo chambers, just waiting to be called, like Brendan said. And You got to be aware of this. You got to start thinking higher. You got to get on a gold pill level. You got to. Let's continue.
This up, it's simple psychological warfare. They won't motivate you to act politically. They just sit there and keep you contained. This is a sophisticated psychological warfare operation, interactive internet activities. And it's time you got pissed off about it and started hammering these people and saying, hey, whoever, Rick Wiles, you want 250 grand for your studio? Your studio looks just fine. We want to know when you're going to become a focal point of politically lobbying. And he's going to shut his little mouth and he's going to start getting very nervous because he is absolutely banned from it. Banned. He's not allowed. So don't just think it's me being mean and nasty. Your life is on the line. The life of the planet is on the line. And you're running around going, why can't we all get along? Don't be mean. Don't be a meanie. You fucking child. You're at war. You better start getting serious because it's only just beginning. Let's get back onto that narrative. The old.
Okay, so that was the end of Brendan's rant. We are at war. Your life is at stake. The world's life is at stake. The Earth's life is at stake. Your children's and grandchildren's lives are at stake. We need to wake up and we need to prepare, for what is coming. Now, where I believe Brendan is incorrect is the political lobbying. He thinks, we need to get up and play the political game and all go out and lobby Congress and the Senate and lobby whoever else to make change. But I highly believe he is wrong. We cannot beat the House. The House always wins. They created this current governmental system. They created the institutions that allow them to maintain power. This whole structure that has been built over the last, since probably the USA was created. So going on 2.5 centuries, 3 centuries, this system has been created for them to maintain power. We are not going to lobby them and make change, and all of a sudden, the governmental system and the institutions are just going to turn around and start working for the little person now. It's not going to happen. I don't know what the solution is. I don't know how we change things. I honestly don't know. But lobbying politically and playing their political game is not going to get us anywhere. It's going to get us in trouble, and they will probably take us out. So you need to know that. Like I said, I don't know what the solution is. The whole structure probably needs to be come down and be done away with and something new in its place. I don't know how you do that. I don't know what the new thing in its place would be, but the current system, it's not repairable, and it will never work for the little person. So that was Brendan's rant into the IIA, and I believe a lot of his, assessment of IIA and psychological operations online here. I believe that they're quite true, and he's correct about a lot of things. But where we differ is the solution. His solution's lobbying, and I'm sorry, but that's not going to get it done, Brendan. That's naive, and that's a major part of why I think Brendan is actually part of the IIA operations. His role is to put it in people's minds that there's still hope that we can turn the system around in our favor. And that hope just does not exist. So, it's kind of like a limited hangout. 90% great information from Brendan, and then the 10% disinfo narrative of play the political game and lobbying. That's the solution. I'm sure these operations go so deep that we couldn't even imagine. And the people carrying them out probably don't even imagine because of compartmentalization. So let's go check out some documents here. So this document, which when I was searching for IIA, not too much stuff came up for research. I had to go off a couple documents and then search for certain things from those documents. And I found a few. And it seems like the interactive internet activities kind of got started here back in mid 2007. This is a Deputy Secretary of Defense, a memorandum for secretaries of the military departments, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, undersecretaries of defense, commanders of the combatant commands, general counsel of the Department of Defense, assistant secretaries of defense, deputy undersecretaries of defense. And the subject of this memorandum is Policy for Department of Defense Interactive Internet Activities, IIA. So this here proves IIA is real. It's been started over a decade ago, probably going on 2 decades here. And the purpose is interactive internet activities are an essential part of DOD's responsibilities to provide information to the public, shape the security environment, and support military operations. This policy provides authority and guidance for these activities. So this is providing the authority to do that. And here's the authority. It goes to all of them, even the Public Affairs Department. And from what I've been able to research here, this IIA is kind of split between the Department of Defense and the Department of State. It seems like the Department of State has the more legal ground to carry these operations out, but the Department of Defense has the more capacity and ability to carry these out. So it's mainly being done by the Department of Defense, but it should probably technically be Department of State. But I'm sure they're probably both carrying it out. And this goes down, it was sent out by some England. And it says, when you do this, you have to have an attribute for it. So there's 3 types: U.S. attribution, concurring partner nation attribution, then non-attribution. So the non-attribution is kind of just a get around when you don't have any other thing to attribute it to. So this is the kind of the beginning of the IIA here in 2007. And while researching the IIA, I came across Patrick Bergy. Apparently, he must kind of have a little website or something, or be a part of this, the American Awakening. I found 2 pages where he talks about the IIA. Now, I'm not going to really cover any of this till probably the second half of this video. I didn't get a chance to read all this that Patrick Bergy has. But I did see here, where is it? Maybe it's this tab. Here, he has this exact memorandum that I have on here. And, he's calling it out. It's called IIA, Interactive Internet Activities. And he says that, where does he say it? But it was pretty much that, that memorandum came out mid-2007. Here it is. Notice the date on the DOD memo above and the date of the IIA policy paper below. I actually came onto the new contract in October 2007, about 4 months after the release of this policy letter. So that memorandum came out, mid-2007, while in October 2007, Bergy got the contract to carry out IIA. So when he went on Alex Jones there, with the whole, after the Shadowgate, Millie Weaver released that Shadowgate documentary, and then Bergy came out on Alex Jones to speak out on a couple things and clarify some things. He kind of, said he was kind of like a father of IIA. And it would appear so. That, after they came out with this memorandum, whatever, they contracted out to him and his employer, General James Jones. So he was at the beginning of IIA. So he would know quite a bit about it. But he's probably controlled to a certain extent, with whatever information he continues to come out with. Um, just for him being a part of this, the people he knows, and them probably getting leverage on him, he's probably playing right into the II game currently. But nevertheless, I'm sure there's a lot of great info that can be gleaned from Patrick Bergy here. And Brendan talks about Patrick Bergy quite a bit. Um, Even when Bergy went on Alex Jones, I forget what the little controversy was, but Alex was like, why wouldn't you come to us, right from the start? And Bergy was like, well, I'll tell you why, because, I was a big part in creating this, IIA, and the last place I'm gonna, go immediately is a media group called Information Warfare, InfoWars. So he knew Alex Jones was, a bullshit psyop. He knew that right from the start. So he was hesitant to go on there, but then he still did. And whether that's because, they got him playing ball, or whether he felt it was important enough to get on there and, say what he needed to say, he still did it. But that just shows you the extent of it. And then here's another thing. I seen Bergy was carrying out IIA in Iraq. Here's a Department of Army in Baghdad, Iraq memo. So, like I said, I didn't read these 2 pages about Bergy, but I'm going to, and that'll probably be in the second part of this video. So yeah, back in 2007, it seems like they kind of started the IIA. But I'm sure they've been planning and setting this up before 2007. This one paper here that I read, this here is an Air War College, Air University. This is kind of like a thesis, and it's Influence Operations and the Internet, a 21st Century Issue. Legal, Doctrinal, and Policy Challenges in the Cyber World. And this is kind of about IIA and pretty much, challenges that, it just said. It's by Rebecca Keller, Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Air Force, February 2010. Now, I noticed down in the sources here, most of the dates, are starting 2006, 2007, and mostly in like the 20 teens. But there's one reference down here that was 2001, right here. War.com, the Internet and Psychological Operations. Joint Forces Quarterly, Spring Summer 2001. So they might have put out the memorandum for IIA in 2007, kind of get that initiative started. But the Internet and Psychological Operations, I'm sure they've been investigating probably since the Internet, was created and really put out for public. So clear back in 2001, they were considering psychological operations as far as military concerns in the Internet. So it makes you think about, the information on the Internet, and how much of it, is out there intentionally, in terms of propaganda. This paper was actually pretty informative. This written by this Miss Keller. It goes down. It goes primer on influence operations, the impact of cyber technology on influence operations. And like I said, The IIA goes by other names. The influence operations or information operations. It's kind of like just another name for IIA. So she mostly calls it influence operations. And then it's the challenges, to effective influence operations, recommended changes to doctrine and policy regarding influence operations, then a conclusion. And I will point out here that one of the what is it, recommended changes to the IIA is the revision of the Smith-Mundt Act. Now, she's speaking on this in 2010. And then here's another: develop less pejorative influence operation terminology. So the pejorative is negative connotations. It's what I just mentioned before. Like terms like psychological operations. Well, that has a negative connotation to it. So they want to develop less negative terminology for things like this. So they're changing things to disguise it. So the average person hears it and they don't, think negatively, immediately. And with a lot of the terms that they changed, they made them so long that people won't even understand what it means. So they're just disguising their policies and stuff. They're disguising what they're doing by changing this terminology. And the revised the Smith-Mundt Act, this is 2010. Well, from then till now, I'm pretty sure they did revise the Smith-Mundt Act. I don't remember what they did to it or what exact year, but I do remember here recently there was a hubbub in the truth community of how they pretty much overturned or got rid of, or they did something to the Smith-Mundt Act. So they did revise it. She wrote this paper back then saying, hey, we need to revise the Smith-Mundt Act because, these IIA operations are, getting pretty involved, and it appears they likely did revise it. I'll have to look into that further and see when they did that and what exactly was changed, but I'm almost sure that they did revise it, and they have been changing the terminology. When reading this document here, she goes and she references certain, I don't know what they're called, certain documents, joint publications. Right here's one. She mentions Joint Publication 313.2, Psychological Operations. Well, I went and did a search for that because I want that publication. And what came up was Joint Publication 313.2, Military Information Support Operations. Now I'm like, well, I don't want this one. I want the one that's psychological operations. Well, you start looking into these joint publications, and it tells you here, January 7th, 2010, incorporating change 1, December 20th, 2011. So they've changed it. They've updated it. If you go down here after this first page, and it's summary of changes. Change 1 to Joint Publication 313.2. So the original Joint Publication 313.2 was psychological operations. That was what it originally was. However, they changed it. So this one here, this 2011 changed. It was originally January 2010, December 2011. They changed it. Well, they tell you what they changed. Here, replace the term psychological operations throughout the publication with military information support operations as appropriate, which according to them more accurately reflects and conveys the nature of planned peacetime or combat operations activities, per the Secretary of Defense memo dated December 2010. So they got rid of the term psychological operations because that's a pejorative term. So it's no longer called psychological operations. It's called military information support operations, which people hear that and be like, what the hell are you talking? What the hell is that? And I agree. What the hell does that even mean? Call it psychological operations. That's what it is. That's easy to understand. And, changing this definition is just, a level of lying, pretty much. And then conducted terminology review to bring definitions into compliance with Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff instruction. Standardization of military and associated terminology. So they're trying to standardize military terminology. And they updated abbreviations and acronyms. So that publication no longer called psychological operations. So another publication I came across is information operations. Now, like I said, this is just another name for IIA, this information operations. And it probably was influence operations, but that would have a pejorative meaning to it. Influence operations, meaning they're influencing people. What about the social media influencers? Influence operations. Well, people can put two and two together, not like the meaning of, being influenced, so they changed it to information operations. And there's incorporating change 2014. Come down here, they'll tell you what they changed. And it's not dealing with, it doesn't say they changed it from influence operations, but it's pretty apparent that they changed the name because back in 2010 when this was starting, this Rebecca, she refers to IO as influence operations. She doesn't say information operations. So from the time she wrote this till this paper, a couple years, they changed that terminology. And then another joint publication that I got is from this one here that she mentions, publication 313.4, military deception. So they have a whole publication on military deception. And all of these are all based around the IIA. This is publication 313. Well, 313.2, 313.4, that means these are all just subsets IIA. So you go in and read all these, and this is all the details of interactive internet activities. This is your online propaganda to be carried out to steer narratives. And, these publications, they're pretty dense with information. This one here is 87 pages. This one's 108 pages to psychological operations. This one's only 19 pages. But you'll see a recurring trend in these that they act like these operations are intended for foreign terrorists. Like they imply that all this stuff is to combat like foreign, pretty much, Muslim terrorists, and this is all the angle of 9/11. We had the 9/11, they brought in the whole terrorism, the war on terror, they passed the Patriot Act, which is anything but patriot. They set up all the framework they need to go after terrorists. And this is an extension of that. They have all this, laid out, Like, they need this to combat foreign terrorists. But with the Patriot Act and all the other stuff that they initiated after 9/11, we have domestic terrorists now. And they made it so they can pretty much label anybody they want here at home in the USA a domestic terrorist. So even though they kind of put a front on, an emphasis front on foreign terrorists that this is used for, make no mistake, this is intended for domestic terrorists as well. And they're actively using it for that. And even though them calling people here at home domestic terrorists is probably so far from the truth, it's just anybody who's going against their beast system, their control system here at home. Anybody speaking out against that, going against it, they deem a domestic terrorist, and therefore falls under the jurisdiction for them to use this IIA on. So realize that they put all the policies in place to where, even though they put a front on where this is, the majority of it is supposed to be used for foreign adversaries. It's used for domestic adversaries as well. They won't put that in there, but trust me, this is just as much to be used on you and me as it is on old Muhammad over in Kuwait, or wherever. This is all around to be used. And there's some interesting information if you go down here and you start reading through this stuff, and it kind of makes you laugh because they make it all legal, like the stuff that you're the propaganda they're putting out, it has to be true, and there has to be things in place to where the American public doesn't have access to it, because it's propaganda and this and that, and they act like it's all on the uppity up, and all kosher, and protecting their people, and just BS. It's all lawyer talk. This can be used on anybody and everybody, and it is being used on anybody and everybody. Excuse me. So if you want to look over these documents, look them up and download them. I downloaded all of these. I have, I think about 4 of them. I have 3 of them here I showed you, but there's an update to the psychological operations one. There's a 2016 update to this publication, and they changed some more terminology in it and stuff. So I downloaded both of them because sometimes maybe you want to view the old one that has, the more truthful terminology, instead of reading the new one where you got to figure out what the hell everything, means now. Military information support operations. You have to figure out that, well, that means psychological operations. So they do all that to confuse you and hide, all their policy frameworks they have in place to carry out war on you. Like Brendan said there at the end, we are at war. They are waging a war on us. We need to start realizing this and acting accordingly. It's not far-fetched to say our lives, my children's lives, my grandchildren's lives are at stake. And I fear to look what the future looks like for them, especially when I'm no longer able, to be a voice, and a guide of wisdom for my children. Because once we start losing, the last couple good generations here, we're done. The people being born into this system, that's all they know. The people born after 9/11, The millennials, and onward here, they're born into this. They're screwed. All they know is the system. They're not going to have anybody to, tell them the truth and wake them up. And so as generations slip by, we're just going to keep slipping further and further into this. So you need to wake up to this now and start spreading it around so younger generations can get this info now. So let's see where to go from here. So I'm not going to really, read through any of these because they're so in depth. I recommend you do it. And all you have to do to find these documents is, go to search, Brave search or Google search, and search for the actual name of it. I did right here. When I was reading this thesis, I would just highlight Joint Publication 313-4, right click, search Brave for it, and it would come up. You get them from military sites, and then you can download them with the download right up here. So just search Joint Publication 313-4, Joint Publication 313-2, Joint Publication 313. Just search them all, download them. If you want to download this thesis, just search for interactive internet activities, and this came up. Influence operations. It was the second one here, and that was a good read from her. And it's interesting to see how things she recommended actually came true, like revising the Smith-Mundt, changing terminology. Here's impact of cyber technology on influence operations. New cyber opportunities for military deception. New cyber opportunities for psychological operations. New opportunities for social networking. There's a couple areas dedicated to social networking and social media. So when you see people on social media, best be aware that they have paid influencers. Remember, influence operations, influencers that are paid to do their influencing. We just had, information that came out where, I don't know if it was the government or big pharma, they spent $1 billion paying social media influencers to push positive vaccine information. So if they're doing that just to push positive vaccine information, what do you think they're doing and paying to push other stuff? It's a whole industry now. And I seen it emerge, on YouTube and then spread out to the alternative platforms from 2016 till now. And if you've seen many of my recent videos, where I went over that YouTube transition and history on things, you'll see, and Brendan talks about it, how YouTube was created, 2006, whatever. They had 2 years being independent, and big tech seen, the impact of YouTube, and they bought them in 2008. Google bought them. And when did this memorandum come out? 2007. So they already seen the potential of social media and, video sites like YouTube. Because like I said, that YouTube only lasted 2 years being independent and got gobbled up by Google, which is just an extension of the government. And, a year before they got bought, well, here's IIA memorandum coming out. So this whole online, truth community has likely kind of been penetrated probably from the beginning. According to Brendan, the real Wild West, days of very little censorship kind of ended around 2009. Maybe 2010, where A lot of the real people putting stuff out, they abandoned it, got scared off with the Snowden leaks and stuff, where they found out you could be targeted. And, kind of from, 2010-ish on, it's been a slow decline. And then, 2016, when I really got in, started, kind of having an information addiction, um, you could still get kind of some decent info on YouTube if you knew where to look and you knew how to separate the wheat from the chaff. But then the decline from 2016 till now, um, I witnessed it firsthand in depth. And there's no other explanation than it was intentional. They intentionally did the demonetization of a lot of channels. They intentionally did the censorship um, to scatter them off of YouTube onto the alternative platforms. They created the alternative platforms specifically so there was a place to go and scatter everyone out. And the whole echo chamber, keeping, groups segregated and, in their own little padded rooms. I believe that was all intentional and all part of their operations. And we come to current day, and it's pretty much echo chambers and valve releases for pressure. And that's kind of where we sit. And the majority of just about everything is controlled. If you if you're familiar enough with the truth community, you know your way around it. You have a variety of different sources and everything like I do. You have a good overall, perspective of it. You can see how the current truth community is completely manipulated. The same topic, the same trend, the same current thing they want you to talk about. It spreads through the whole truth community all at the same time, one after the other. Just like the mainstream media, the current online truth community operates just like the current mainstream media. This topic comes up, they want you to talk about it and discuss it, and it flows right through the whole truth community, all the different channels, all the different content creators. And, unless you're, highly, involved in this truth community, and have, the broad perspective of it that, I've managed, to accumulate over, the past, what is it now, 6 years. You don't see this, but I see it. And it's the current online truth community is just an alternative mainstream media right now. They created an alternative mainstream media for people who think they're bucking the system, for people who think they're red pilled. They just created their own mainstream media for them. It's called the online truth community, and that falls into what was his name? Let me see here. Richard Thiem, where he says the red pill, people think they take the red pill, while it quickly becomes the purple pill. Because once they get into it, then they're just bombarded with blue pills left and right, and they don't know. They take the blue pills with the red pills, and then they're purple pills. And people are none the wiser to it. They think they're awake. They think they're in the truth community. They think they're fighting back, talking with like-minded folks and whatever. And like Brendan said, that's just a pressure release. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing with putting this info out and making you feel a certain way. I'm not sure where exactly in these papers it goes over certain things. Because like I said, there's so much of it. But actually, let me scroll down. Is it this one? One of them has a chart in it. And it's not just, putting out propaganda. They're talking about emotions, your consciousness, everything. And it goes back to the video of the World Economic Forum, where he said, you think that, you have free will and you're making decisions and stuff at the grocery store. And those days are over. So, I mean, that's how effective this propaganda is, that they can control your thinking. They just put out the information they want you to consume at the moment. You consume it. It's put out by all venues. All the content creators in the truth community, cycle the same information. It gets absorbed. It's like a firmware update. And everybody gets that update. And you're thinking, what they want you to think. You're talking about what they want you to talk about. And whether you know it or not, you're getting programmed. You're absorbing propaganda. And it's working. I don't know where this chart is in this here. I scrolled. Here it is. They go on here, the information environment. You got the physical dimension, tangible real world. Then you have the informational dimension, data-centric. Then you have the cognitive dimension, human-centric. So they're going into your head, cognitive parts, emotional parts. Here's target audiences, how you reach them. Vulnerable populations, mass audiences, key influencers. And here's the information flow back and forth from them. You go down here and it expands more. And here's the means. They enter the means. And then you achieve an ends. They initiate the means, the flow of information goes around, and they achieve an end. They have this stuff down to a science by now. And here it is, application of information-related capabilities to achieve influence. Here's activity, collect, process, disseminate, act, dimension, physical, informational, physical, cognitive. And go down here. Here's another chart. Influence leads to achievement of an end. Now, I don't see where the exact the emotion and everything else is, but they have phases, notional operation plan phases. Shaping activities, deterring activities, seizing the initiative, dominating, stabilizing. So they have this stuff all set out. They even have scenarios put out in here to give examples of. And like I said, they're acting on, all aspects of your mind, not just, visual information. They're playing on your emotions. They're playing on, habits, interests, everything. I wish I knew where I seen that. I forgot all about that until I started talking about it there. And with all this information, I'm never gonna find it. Specifics, but read through these yourself. You'll find it. You'll see how, it's targeted, the target audience, it's to hit all aspects of them. So, all right, I think we're gonna call it quits for now. It's about an hour. We'll call it quits here. I'll either release this video as one and then we'll continue on with a second video, or I'll just do the second and combine the two. But I'll probably release this video and then we'll just follow up with another video. Is like a part 2. I'll have to read Patrick Bergy's parts here, and I'll see if I can find the parts where it says about the emotional and all the stuff of targeting the person's mind. Like I said, if get these publications and read them. I'll save this here for tomorrow too. This here is an ever-expanding war, legal aspects of online strategic communication. And this online strategic communication is just another term for IIA, interactive internet activities. And this talks about, the legal ramifications of it and pretty much how they likely don't have the legal rights, but they get around it and they do. They don't give a shit. They do whatever they want, even though it's ethically ethically not good, but they don't care. And here's talking about the IIA. So maybe we'll go over this a little bit more in the second part and then the Bergy part. And I'll see whatever parts I forgot to mention. So that's all. We'll go for part 2 probably tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. Everybody, strive for the gold pill. You got to find the gold pill. You got to realize that you're being bombarded in every aspect of your life to think and feel a certain way that's maybe not, what you want. You're being controlled. All right, take the gold pill, everyone. Have a good day. Stay safe. Take care of your family. I'm out. Peace.